Hey guys, Israel Favela here with Clearview Realty. I'm a realtor here in El Paso, Texas, and I have a good friend of mine, Idhaly Muniz, who we've actually known since high school. I'm not going to disclose how long that's been, but Idhaly is a realtor out in San Antonio, Texas. And the reason I bring her on here is because we want to discuss, some things about San Antonio, the market itself, and compare them to El Paso. And there's been a lot of talk about, the market shifting from a seller's market down to a neutral or buyer's market. But we wanted to get down, just talk about San Antonio, compare it to El Paso, and talk about some of the stats that are going there. But I want to give Idhaly an opportunity for her to introduce herself. So, Idhaly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Israel, for having me. So my name is Idhaly Muniz, and I have lived in San Antonio since 2010. I am a small business owner, and I've owned businesses from clothing boutiques to a nationwide trucking and logistics company to now being in real estate. I've been in real estate for 4 years as a real estate agent, but previous to that, I was an investor. Um, I am married to my husband for almost 14 years come November. He's my life and business partner. So that's always interesting. And I am a dog mom. So I love dogs. I have a Doberman, which is my first love. And then I am a glam ma to my daughter's golden doodle.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's cute.
big family.
Yeah, that's awesome that you've had the experience in living in San Antonio, and so you do have the experience and knowledge of just that area in general. What brokerage are you with right now, Idhaly? Where are you working at?
I am a real estate agent with EXP Realty,
Awesome.
and I've been with them for several years now.
Cool. And so I want to just kind of jump right into it, just talk about San Antonio things. And what would you say, like you yourself being in San Antonio for quite some time and other residents there, what would you say is like what is it that they like the most about San Antonio? What is it that attracts people to want to move over there?
So San Antonio is a very family-oriented city. It is a really big city, but it has that small town feel,
Yeah.
which I absolutely love. Culture is really strong here. We have festivals all year long, so there's always something to do. And besides doing all of the fun stuff, we also have really big cities like Dallas and Houston, Austin within a really close range. So getting away for a quick little getaway is so practical.
Yeah, for sure. And then a ton of things to do there as well. And I think for me, at least, whenever I visit certain places, like I'm attracted to wanting to taste different foods. But in terms of like restaurants, is there any like hole in the walls, or just like if you visit San Antonio, you have to try these, or what are some areas that you recommend?
So my go-to places when I have my friends and family come and visit are Green, Texas. It's this tiny little historic city right by New Braunfels. And they just have amazing food, wines. They usually have live music. So it's just the great place to take friends and family. The second place that I absolutely love going to is the Pearl in San Antonio. Again, you have restaurants, shops, you have a splash pad. So very family friendly, but also, you get to experience fine dining and yeah,
Awesome.
it's just an experience.
Yeah, and then so the times that I've been there have been for training, and so a lot of times we gravitate to the which is the river walk, right? Um,
Right.
yeah. So, but it seems like the places that you're talking about a little bit more niche, more I guess places that tourists don't really go to, but it's kind of like I guess places that are a lot of people that are live there are more attracted to, right?
Correct. Actually, the Pearl and Green are right off of the river.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know this, but the river walk is actually much longer than just what the tourists experience downtown.
Okay.
So the Pearl, there's parts of the Pearl that literally have restaurants right by the river, but they're not in the most touristy parts of of downtown.
Got
So
it. Okay. Yeah, and then for anybody that's watching, I would love to hear anybody else that lives in San Antonio or has been to San Antonio that have little hole in the wall. So in the comments, if you guys can kind of put down in there any other restaurants or hole in the wall restaurants that you guys recommend. even entertainment districts or anything of that nature. But I wanted to jump into the real estate aspect of it, since this is our profession. But in terms of buyers and sellers, what is something that's mostly misunderstood about the market in San Antonio when it comes to real estate? Usually?
I'm so glad you bring that up. So one of the biggest things that we face here in San Antonio is that buyers and sellers don't really understand how competitive the market is here in San Antonio. So we have a lot of individuals that are relocating to San Antonio from different parts of the country. Parts of the country where a commute, an hour commute is just the norm, right? San Antonio offers slightly more affordable living than perhaps Austin. So someone that is going to be working in Austin or in surrounding areas may possibly be looking at San Antonio or some of the outside communities because of the affordability compared to Austin, right? However, with that said, some of these buyers that are coming into the marketplace are coming in with some big pockets. So for a local buyer, that really does set the competition bar a little bit higher. It's very important as a real estate agent that I have that ability to educate my buyers and really create a strategy to help them win. That's ultimately my goal, right? So for one, and probably the biggest challenge is learning that the market is extremely competitive. And while we hear the real estate market throughout the entire country is, on fire, San Antonio is really lit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I know competitive can be, defined differently depending on the cities itself. I mean, you've lived in El Paso, you've seen how the market is more or less. But I feel like what we would consider competitive is not as competitive, if there's a degree to it of what's going on in San Antonio and neighboring cities as well, right? So I guess just kind of give it an example with El Paso is traditionally it's been more of a buyer's market where the sellers will pay for the closing costs, but now it's switched over where they pay for their own closing costs. They want to pay for the title policy. They even want to pay above appraisal value, maybe $5,000 or $10,000. But I would imagine that it's even more competitive in San Antonio, right, where they're asking for maybe putting $40,000 or $50,000 above. Is it something to that effect, or what have you been seeing?
That's correct, Israel. So here in San Antonio, we were seeing for a little bit the increase in sales price, right? And that would help a buyer get into a home. For now, as of most recent, because real estate is always changing, right? The most recent data shows that in order for you to be able to get into a home, you have to offer at least 6% over the asking price, which when you look at what's our median price in San Antonio, that is a good amount of money. Besides offering more, we're having to waive appraisals because perhaps that home might not end up appraising for very much. That is an ability that most cash buyers or conventional buyers can do. Some VA buyers may be able to do that. That really makes it difficult for an FHA buyer. The other things that we're seeing in the marketplace are, besides offering more money, waiving appraisals, and we're talking full appraisal waiver. And then we also have buyers having to pay for survey, title, HOA fees. HOAs are a big thing here in San Antonio. So buyers are having to pay for HOA fees as well, not asking for any type of concessions. At many times, waiving the option period. And while they may do that, I always still recommend that even if we have to waive that option period, to still do the due diligence of performing an inspection. I think it's very important to still perform an inspection, even if it's more to retain information about the home.
Right. So it seems like you really have it dialed in, because I mean, in order for your clients to position them in the, in the right spot for their offer to get accepted, you yourself have to be knowledgeable about the market, and just everything that you're describing makes sense to me, that, you are positioning your clients in the best way that you can to get their offers accepted, right?
Correct.
So I guess the next topic would be, we've kind of already discussed it, right? Like, the biggest obstacle you have faced as a real estate agent, and what have you learned from that experience? And more of, I guess, about this market itself. Is there anything else aside from, just how competitive the market itself that you want to discuss about any obstacles that you've experienced as a real estate agent in this market?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest obstacles that I have faced with buyers perhaps is that while I like to educate and share and be extremely transparent, because I feel like by doing so you eliminate some of the heartache in real estate, right? I also like to set expectations if I know that within an area that they're looking at, and I also know their price range,
Mm.
I have to create that strategy. If a new house comes in the market and it's at the top of the price range, I always have to be able to revert them back to our original strategy. Again, it's all to try to reduce some of the heartache. I don't ever want to show a property that my buyer may potentially fall in love and they have absolutely no chance at. Um, so setting expectations, educating my buyers. And while I do that, and I do that from the very beginning, because I like to be straight forward with my clients, the issue is that while you give them the information, sometimes they don't understand, and you have to almost allow them to kind of feel, and experience the current market. And once they come on board and they realize, what it's going to actually take to get a home, then that's when, we really become a team and we're able to achieve getting them under contract.
Right. That's crazy. That's crazy because I feel like we experience that here in El Paso too, because it's just been such a shift from pre-COVID to now.
Yeah.
Uh, People have just been so used to getting assistance from the sellers with their closing costs, and so many incentives for a buyer to purchase a home. And I'm sure it was, similar to in San Antonio as well. But there is like a little bit of a roller coaster of emotions that a buyers sometimes, like you said, need to experience so that they understand, hey, this is the climate of the market, and this is what you need to, this is approach that you need to take so that you can get your offer accepted. Because sometimes it stinks, but sometimes we get so discouraged because when we're buying a home, our emotions get so involved, and they should, because it's such a huge investment that it's going to affect, your family or even just yourself. If you're just purchasing a home, it's a huge investment. But I just feel it's important for them to understand what the market's like, and sometimes we just need to kind of guide them and, hey, this is what it's really like, just like you were saying, right? So I,
Absolutely. With that said, Israel, you know what? When it comes to a home and dealing with my buyers, I usually tell them real estate is still the best form of investments. It's still the best way for you to grow your net worth. So, again, educating them from a more of a business perspective, right? And helping them understand that purchasing a home is still going to be the best thing that they could possibly do. Home values here in San Antonio are very much aligned with what the National Association of Realtors has released, in the sense of homes increasing by $55,000 in one single year alone. And that's what we have seen here in San Antonio. So again, when I talk to my buyers and they want the house with all the bells and whistles. I mean, who doesn't, right? We have this image of what our home should be, and having to bring them back down to reality of where we are in the marketplace. And there's one thing that I always share with them is, does your current job give you the ability to earn an extra $55,000? Would you have been able to get a $55,000 increase in one single year alone? And, they're going to answer no. I'll probably get a dollar raise or, a quarter, whatever it is, given their industry. But through real estate, they really do have that ability, because here in San Antonio, we just continue to see the value of homes continue to rise.
right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're for sure going to jump into that data real quick, but that's very interesting that, well, it's good that you have that conversation with them, because I agree that the investing in real estate is still, a smart move to do, because it's not as volatile as like investing in the stock market, where, you can invest and then it can drop and then go. the real estate market isn't as crazy as that is. But that's a good point that you bring up. And I know we were talking about buyers, but now like changing gears a little bit with sellers. What are some, if there's any obstacles that you've experienced, what have you experienced so far in this market with sellers?
With sellers, you'd be surprised because you think there's so many buyers that are eager to own a home, but I do also love the type of buyer that is in the marketplace right now. They're savvy buyers.
Mhm.
And even though they're willing to basically waive everything and allow the homeowner to reside in the home even after they have closed for a month or two,
Mhm.
um, they're still really savvy. And with that said, is that they're purchasing properties that they know that is, that they're making smart purchases.
Mhm.
So with my sellers, if I have a seller that has a distressed property, and while we may price it, right, pricing strategy here comes into place.
Mhm.
And we want to price a home that may have, some issues. And if they don't have the financial means to be able to complete these repairs before going on market, then we talk about a pricing strategy. So again, it's all going back to educating my clients, both buyers and sellers, and letting them know what the expectation is and what kind of response we may get. If the seller, because of what we're hearing in the news and throughout all media, real estate is doing so well, and sellers are getting well over asking. And so if their home is going to end up sitting on the market because of the current presentation and they weren't willing to maybe negotiate or come to a list price
Mhm.
that I had suggested would be a good price, then I always try to let them know, okay, we'll list it, but we're going to have this conversation. We're going to revisit this conversation. We're going to look at the data. We're going to see what the market is saying about, your property.
Mhm.
And at that point, we're going to have to adjust. So again, setting correct expectations with both buyers and sellers in this marketplace are extremely important.
Yeah, yeah, and it's good that you lay it out, because at the end of the day, if you give them all the options, you're going to be able to allow them to make, a choice for themselves of what they feel is best. But with you giving this information with their best interest in mind, right? I've seen people shoot themselves in the foot, and I'm glad that you mentioned, like, you were specific about, someone wanting to sell their home that's distressed and then pricing it right, because a lot of times what I've seen, even though it is a seller's market, you can still shoot yourself in the foot as
Yes.
a homeowner, putting your home on the market for way above asking price. Because yes, there's a ton of buyers, but it could sit on the market for more than expected, and then that's when they start asking for closing costs, and you won't be able to net as much because there's still a strategy. I've noticed, I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but there's been an incline in more for sale by owners. And granted, I think that's an awesome task to take on, but it can be very difficult, because I think there's this assumption that you just put your home on the market and it's going to sell, right? There's still a lot of strategy that goes into play in the seller's market, where you have to kind of decipher, all right, we're getting 10 offers, which one's the best one? It's not necessarily the one that nets you the most, but it could be, which one's going to give me a more smoother transaction, looking at the types of loans and stuff like that. But it seems like you have that pretty dialed in, and having that discussion ahead of time, so that when they run into it, it's not such a huge surprise, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's good. And so I want to kind of get down into the stats, Idali. So, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that we're in a seller's market still in San Antonio, or what would you say? Is it still a seller's market?
Oh, absolutely. And the stats speak for themselves. So, speaking of stats, according to the San Antonio Board of Realtors, in March, we closed the month with an average price per square foot here in San Antonio at $183 per square foot.
Mhm.
The average price in San Antonio in March was 374,168.
Wow.
The median price was 326,500. The average days on market are 34. Keep in mind, and I really do like to educate my buyers when we're looking at these numbers, is that the days on market, which is the DOM, right? That's what we refer to it. it consists of the days that they were actually on market and then when they went under contract.
Mhm.
So homes typically here are going under contract between 1 to 3 days. Um, when I have a buyer that maybe has, you know, a loan or a price point that's below that median price, then I start looking at, again, strategy. I look at homes that have been sitting on the market for even 5 days.
Oh,
Those are
wow.
that we're looking at, that we're trying to go and see what that house looks like.
Mhm.
However, from those prices, so we went from 326,000 as the median price in March to April, the end of April, to going to an average sales price of $408,000. And for the week of May 2nd through the May 8th, our average sales price is at $410,000.
Wow. That's insane. Yeah, because here in El Paso, I pulled up some stats too, but the average sales price or the average price per square foot, you were saying it's about 180, right? Uh,
Yes.
Here it's about 127, which is a huge, huge increase from there. Last year, from January to today, the average sales price is about 209,000. But like today, from the same time from January to May, it's 246. So it's been a significant jump, but not as significant as what you all are experiencing. From month over month, it seems like it's going from you were saying 300 and like mid 300s to 400s, right?
Right. So the average or the median price was 326,000.
Uh-huh.
So perhaps low 300s
Right.
to the average. I mean, from that was in March, and then the median sales price, the end of April through May 1st was 342. And then the median sales price May 2nd through May 8th was 354,000.
Wow.
So, I mean, just in one single
Mhm.
month or less than a month, we're up by $25,000.
Right. That's crazy because I know that we just recently had like the Feds increased the rates, which in turn increased the interest rates. And I think the last time I checked it was about 5.6. That's an average that I've seen on Mortgage Daily News. But I know that there's been a lot of talk about how the mortgage rates are gonna, filter out a lot of buyers that weren't able necessarily to qualify, to kind of, not search for a home now, and in turn increase the inventory. But it seems like it's still strong over there in San Antonio. Have you experienced maybe a little bit more lag time for it to get under contract, or is it still pretty, homes are going under contract pretty quickly still?
So I'm glad you brought that up because yes, interest rates have gone up and it has weeded out a lot of the buyers that maybe weren't as strong in the marketplace.
Mhm.
However, that leaves the really serious and perhaps very strong buyers.
Mhm.
So I feel that the competition not only has increased because now we're talking with people that are extremely serious to purchase and
Right.
that have the ability to do so. We are also seeing properties go back on market. And with that, it has kind of a connection to interest rates going up. So once that buyer locks in, is able to get under contract, perhaps the interest rate that was shared with them at the beginning of their loan application is no longer the interest rate that they're able to afford,
Mhm.
putting them out of, you know, their budget.
Mhm.
So we are seeing homes go back on market, but these homes go back on market and they quickly go under contract again.
Right, right. That's so true. Because and it's a good point that you bring up how like there's less buyers, but these buyers are the ones that are were able to feel the effect of the interest rate increase, but still manage to be in the market itself, which in turn makes a more strong buyer itself. So that brings up a good point in terms of if you're still in the market to buy and you're still able to qualify for a home, there's going to be less competition. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more competitive, but you're not going to be experiencing the onslaught of experiencing maybe 30 offers in one property. Like I've seen here sometimes in El Paso, maybe it's going to be a little bit less. So it kind of increases the probability of you getting your offer accepted sometimes, right?
Right. I
Yeah.
think the most important thing is to always put your best foot forward. You know, looking for a deal in this type of market is you getting a house.
Mhm.
Again, realizing that that property is only going to continue to, rise in value. And just being able to purchase a home the is the deal.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, Idale, I know that since the time that you've been in San Antonio, you've been doing well. Like, I know that you started off in real estate over here in El Paso, but I see your posts and I see your social media, and I see like you're doing very, very well.
Thank you.
I know that we've discussed, several things about the market in San Antonio, but if someone were to want to purchase a home in San Antonio, where can they reach you? What would be the best way to contact you if in the event that they want to, know more about the market?
So you can find me on Instagram. And if you'll do me the favor of sharing my handle. And of course, they can always contact me via phone, text. I am always available.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for Idali for joining us here and discussing your market and sharing some stats with that. But we'll keep in touch. We'll catch you on the next video. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Israel.
Thank you.